This is episode 62 of Our Modern Heritage, the new Home and Family Culture podcast. I'm your host, Jody Chafee. In this episode, I talked with Alison J. Prince. She's a mom and successful businesswoman. Alison J. Prince has built 4 successful multi-million-dollar online businesses. She's been featured in Forbes, the cover of Costco Connection, and spoken on the stage of Funnel Hacking Live. But she feels her most successful business choice was teaching her 10 and 13-year-olds how to sell over $100,000 in 9 months. She watched them transform in believing in themselves and living what she terms the because I can plan life. She is now currently teaching thousands how they can live this life as well. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you.
So tell us more about what inspired you to be entrepreneurial.
Food stamps.
Yes.
So my whole life growing up, I was always taught, go to college so that you can be financially secure. Get your degree and go get a job and you'll be financially secure. So I did that. I studied hard and I got my teaching degree. Now, teaching degree, I knew that I wasn't going to own mansions or fancy cars. And I was okay with that, right? So I chose teaching. My first month taught, got my first paycheck, and they said, congratulations, you also qualify for food stamps. And I was like, what? No, there's nowhere. What? Food stamps and financially secure does not go in the same sentence, right? So I was so frustrated with it, and I had to figure out how to pay for stuff, right? Like food, I wanted to be able to pay for food. And so I started going to the library because I might date myself, but the internet really wasn't there. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't 100% of our lives. And so I couldn't just pull up my phone and start researching. I went to the local library and got magazines and books because I couldn't afford anything. And everything that I was reading was all about entrepreneurs are the ones that make the money. And so I just started diving into that world. And then that's when the internet world started coming about. And when I discovered that you could make money online, I knew that was where I needed to be because I had 4 little kids and I didn't want to have to go out and get a job that, qualified me for food stamps, right? That meant the rest of the money was going to go to daycare. And so I was basically working for no reason at all, right? I wanted to make work so that I would be able to pay for myself and take care of my stuff. And I have an amazing husband, but he was going to school at the same time. He graduated physical therapy school. But even with that, we were the paycheck to paycheck life. And it just felt crushing. And the dreams that are embedded into our souls require money, right? If we want to go do a service mission in Africa, if we want to take food to our sick neighbors or cookies to the elderly, we have to have money to be able to do that kind of stuff. And so that's when the wheels started turning of, I've got to figure something out. I've got to figure out how to make more money.
Yeah. And there's so much of what you just said resonated with me a lot because there's a lot going on in my family and growing up that both my husband and I grew up with that same mentality and belief of following the script, following the conveyor belt of convention to, get good grades, go to college, find a good job. But a lot of people, I think, are coming to reality that those jobs just aren't there, or the jobs that they want aren't there, and then now they don't have any skills to acquire the jobs that either are available, or they just don't have the skills. They just have to start over if they want to get a different job, and then they're at their very bottom of the totem pole again. And so that's something, they've had to create a whole new life stage to classify these people who are moving back home, and don't grow up until they're 25 or 28, things like that. So that's a very real reality for a lot of people. And then, this idea that you need money. And I think that so many people think that if we want money, then that's greedy. But like you're saying, number one, we need to survive. And number two, if you want to do anything that's helpful, you got to be able to have money. If you want to serve or do anything productive, you got to be able to have money. And so that is something it's so inspiring. It's so powerful. So even in what you just said, you talked about family culture right in there, because, these things that we're ingrained in of growing up to believe, go to school, go to college, get a good job, that's all part of family culture. And the things that we teach our families. And then our beliefs about money are also ingrained in our family culture, because, when we say, oh, we can't afford that, that's right there is already putting a belief about money. Or if we say, oh, if they can, or we state judgments about rich people or things like that. Anyways, all of that is our family culture. And so I think it's so important to think about those things and to recognize and realize that those are things ingrained in our customs and in our beliefs. And part of my goal in my podcast is to disrupt those beliefs a little bit.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So what was your first inspiration to start e-commerce? What did you start with?
So let me back up a little bit. Before I knew about e-commerce, I'd heard blogging. The word blogging was coming around. So I started a blog with a couple of my friends that is still going today. It's still strong. And I love these gals so incredibly much. It's been 10 years that this blog has been going. But in the beginning of blogging, there's no money. You are working for negative amount of money in the beginning, because it just takes time to get a following. It takes time to have marketing, advertisers, things like that. And so I was like, I've got to find a different way to be able to make money. And so I did come across e-commerce of selling products online, but I'll tell you what, I didn't have any money to go buy product. And I'm like, maybe is this a route I should take? I don't know. And so what I did is I looked around my makeshift office and I found some vinyl. So vinyl is like a long strip of sticky paper, sticky plastic paper, right? And you can cut it out and you can put it on your walls or organize your stuff with it. But looking back, I don't think I had a cutter at that point. I'd had one earlier from a couple craft businesses that I tried to start, but I think it was broken. And so I couldn't cut anything out. So I just decided to sell the sheet because that's literally all I had. And so I put it up on a site and crossed my fingers. And within an hour, everything had sold out. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh, I'm figuring this out. And because I had learned the online world through the blog, I knew how to drive traffic. But here's the deal. I didn't use my blog to drive traffic. Everybody's like, well, Alison, you got started because you had a blog. And I'm like, well, actually, I needed to respect my business partners. And we didn't know how to handle that very well. Because they were like, well, what do we charge you? Do we charge you full price? Do we charge you half price? Whatever. And we ended up finally coming to the conclusion that you just charge me full price and then let's just treat me like everybody else. But so for the first months, I couldn't even advertise on my own platform because we just hadn't come to an agreement, right? It was fine and lovely. We just didn't know what to do. It was kind of like the awkward teenage child where you're like, I don't know what to do. So I got out there and I started working with other influencers, other bloggers. And I said, hey, will you promote this? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so we created these relationships where they would promote my products and then I would pay them. And that's what started building my list. And so when I sold out the first product, I was like, that's so cool. And I think I made like $200 or $300 and I was on cloud 9 until I realized, oh, shoot. What am I going to sell tomorrow? What do I do? So I went through old party supplies and I had these little gable boxes that held cookies and displayed those. And I knew where I could get them from. I could just get them from a local shipping company. And so I could get them pretty quick. So I put them up on the site the next day and like nothing sold. And I was like, okay. And tried again for a third day. So I put up another product and I wish I could remember what it was, but I don't remember. And I put it up on the site and again, nothing sold. And so that night I was telling my husband, I'm like, I was just a one-hit wonder. I did it once. I failed twice. This just isn't going to work. And I just had this strong feeling, and I don't know what religion everybody is, but I had a strong feeling, and I know that's from God. And he was like, you can't stop. What do you mean you're even having those thoughts? Like, get that out of your head. You had one win and 2 fails. Oh my gosh, you didn't lose. I mean, you're just learning. This is not failing. This is learning. Stop complaining and get back to work. So the next morning I woke up super early, put another product up on the site, and we sold out again. And I was like, okay, that's God's. I was like, okay, I got it. Right. And so I know that the road of entrepreneurship is up and down. Mm-hmm. It's not this straight path to success right away. Right. But when you go down, that's your learning opportunity, right? Oh, okay, those Gable boxes, and that didn't sell at that time. Now I went on to sell Gable boxes later on in my career, and we ended up selling like way too many. It was awesome. It was so awesome. But I think that at that moment, I learned that entrepreneurship is a roller coaster ride. And was I willing to get on the ride, or was I going to wait on the sidelines? And I decided at that moment, I'm going to get on the ride, even with the ups and downs. Mm-hmm. And I did it. And then within a year, we had hit $1 million in sales. So going from a teacher with food stamps to creating a company basically out of nothing, leftover products, to $1 million in sales was like, I had to pinch myself. And then, okay, let me keep going further. So then I was building this business, and our sales were growing and doubling and tripling, and it was so exciting. But then this self-doubt started to creep back in again. And I'm like, was I a one-hit wonder? Did I just get lucky? And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to start another business, and I'm going to do it without any of my social media that I had access to. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start from ground zero, just like everyone else would. And I took a product, and it was a pillowcase. So it's not even like this crazy cool product, right? And within 2 years, we'd build it into a multi-million-dollar business. And I was like, okay, I guess I know what I'm doing. But the self-doubt kept creeping in. And I think as human beings, we're constantly dealing with self-doubt. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but no. Like constantly dealing with, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Is this right? Am I going to make the wrong or right decision, right? Mm-hmm. And so the third time, I decided to teach my daughters how to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I took a 10 and 13-year-old, the teenage girls in junior high and elementary, right? Like one of them was still trying to learn how to put on deodorant. Another one was popping zits. Like the most awkward stage in our whole lives, right? Is and we gave them the opportunity to start a business, and they did. I gave them the same steps that I took, and these little girls ended up building a 6-figure business. And everybody's like, well, Alison, you probably just did it for them. Oh no, I was running those 2 multi-million-dollar businesses plus that blog. I literally couldn't, like, I didn't have enough time in the day. I was still doing laundry. I was still cooking dinner. Yeah. I didn't have enough time in the day to do their business. They had to do it. And so that gave me even more confidence that I really knew what I was doing. And then, of course, my sister asked me, my friends started asking me, and they started having success. And I'm like, okay, I need to be teaching this. I need to be teaching e-commerce and how powerful it is.
Yeah. There's so many thoughts that just came to my mind as you were talking, because, you know, when I think about e-commerce, so I worked for a scrapbook store that was a totally online store. And they would always be like, we didn't have a paycheck for 5 years. We were broke for 5 years after we started this business. And so that was my experience with e-commerce. And then more recently, my experience with e-commerce is like, I read about Kylie Jenner, how she has like 100 million followers on Instagram and social media. And so she just has to put on some lipstick and say, okay, this is my new product, and sells $1 billion. She's like the first self-made billionaire woman or something, or youngest or something like that. And so it's like, oh man, of course, if you have that kind of power and influence, you can do e-commerce, and things like that. So those are the things that are running through my head about it.
And all my businesses that I've done, all my e-commerce businesses, it was never the face of my brand, ever. So when the girls started theirs, 10 and 13, they didn't have phones yet. I just didn't know. It was a scary place, the online world. And I didn't want them to have huge social followings because they're my babies, right? I want to protect them with everything. And so we found that instead of them having to use their own platform and being the Kylie Jenner, right, they could actually use other influencers to promote their products for them. So my girls, they still have their shop up and going. They have their face on the site, but their social media account is little. And that's okay, because I do want to protect them. And we know we're starting to find out more and more about what phones and social media does to little kids' brains. And so they literally had to start from ground zero, and I kept them at ground zero for a long time. Mm-hmm. And they had to use influencers that would promote their products, and that's how they were able to sell, which is kind of magical, right?
Yeah.
You take the product, then you work with someone who's in the space, who knows the space, who's comfortable in the space, and they actually sell the product, which is like so magical.
But then you talk about the need to be resilient. That you knew that you couldn't just give up. And that's got to come from inside of you. You can't, when you're starting a business, or when you're trying to do anything that's different or challenging the status quo, you're on your own in a lot of ways, And so we have to look within ourselves to be able to be resilient, to be able to innovate and find solutions for those problems that we're dealing with. And so that's what I kind of want to go into a little bit more with you is, as you were teaching your daughters how to develop these businesses, how did that impact the way you parented them? How has it changed your parenting and the your family culture, basically? How has, there's a lot in that question that I want to cover, because first of all, starting out being financially insecure, and then being able to innovate in order to change your situation is another aspect of this. Being resilient to the challenges that you endured, this is all part of your family culture and how it has evolved through time as you have developed this huge part of your family and who you are. And so, how has that influenced your home, your family, and the way that you parent and the way that you raise your kids?
So what we decided to do when they started this business is they had to start paying for everything except for like food and their housing and school supplies, right? And they got really mad. I'm not going to lie. And one time my daughter, she was downstairs and she comes up and her friends left, and she's like, "Hey mom, my friend just ripped my pants. Can we go out and buy some new ones?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Grab your money." And she's like, "What? No. I didn't destroy my pants. My friend did. You need to pay for these pants, mom." And I said, "Oh, honey, that's not how it works. If my friend comes over and ruins my couch, I can't go ask my mom for money. Right? That's just not how it works. Like, you need to be able to be strong enough to tell your friend, hey, you know what? Don't rip my pants. I pay for these." And so she didn't talk to me for like a day.
Uh-huh.
And said, all the other moms pay for their kids' stuff, right? All the guilt, the mom guilt's piling up. And what was so cool about this whole story was that over the next week to 2 weeks, I started watching her take better care of her stuff.
Mm.
And to the point of where I caught her once taking a toothbrush to her shoes. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm cleaning them because I don't want to have to use my money to go buy new shoes. And her clothes, instead of being all over the floor, were hung up. She started to learn the value of money and what it cost. And so now when we go to stores, it's not like, Mom, can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? Because I tell them, absolutely, you can have anything you want. You just have to pay for it. And they're like, oh, maybe I don't want that. Or instead of buying 4 shirts, they'll buy one that they really love. Yeah. So I think it's helping them learn more about money than school ever taught me about money. And my childhood, I was like, we didn't have any money at all. And so I had to start paying for everything very, very early on. And so how I think about money now, we save a lot of money. We're good with our money. We want to make sure our children can do that too. Right. And so teaching them the value of it and teaching them that they literally can have anything they want. They just need to work for it. Right. Work is a beautiful thing that God gave us. Like, work is a good thing. And so even like with, okay, this one's a little bit, I don't know. We have some friends that disagree a little bit on this statement, but chores. So let's say they have, one of them has to clean the toilet. If they don't want to clean the toilet, they can pay for someone else to clean the toilet for them. And some people are like, what? No. And I'm like, well, they have to come up with money, right? They have to give money to someone. So maybe they're not cleaning the toilet, but they're off working, doing something else that they love to be able to pay for the toilet to get cleaned. And then I think about me, like, we have someone that comes in once a week to clean our house because I don't like to clean the toilet. I would be much rather be out there and selling products, the products I love and that excite me and I know improve lives, versus trying to find Lysol toilet bowl brush and clean, right? Like, I can pay someone to do the stuff that I don't like because I'm out there doing the stuff I love, and that's generating money.
So I can see it both ways. I can see the argument, like, your kids really should learn that skill and like they should be responsible, blah, blah. But at the same time, I can see, like, we're so ingrained in our culture of growing up of go to college and get a job that we just have to suck it up and do stuff even then we hate it. But if we adopt that mentality, that attitude that, no, we should really be doing things that we love. And, I'm sure I could find some article about this, about how doing things we love. I mean, I think I read one recently, because this is one of the things that, like, my husband will stumble on these things because he hates his job, and he'll stumble onto things where they're like, people are willing to work for less pay in order to do something that brings them joy. And so that's an interesting perspective about it. And then the perspective that everybody has a role or a place that doing something that, there are people who are willing to do the toilets, things like that. And that's providing them with a job.
Yes.
That it's providing for their family.
Like, she loves cleaning my house. It fulfills her. And I'm like, I don't know where that comes from, but you are a blessed woman. I'm like, that is so weird. And she looks at me and she's like, you're so weird. And it works out so well because we both take our weird talents and we bless each other.
Yeah.
And, and going out there, like, my kids having the responsibility. Yeah, the responsibility is, at the end of the day, that toilet has to be cleaned. But can you think outside the box or be able to create money for someone else to do it? And so they still are responsible for that.
Yeah.
A job. They just might go out, think about it another way to get it done.
Well, and that's like the first principle in, like, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, where it's like, you should find other ways to innovate about this. If you, and this first thing he did, he looked around and he had to work for nothing, right? The rich dad was like, you got to work for nothing. And so he's like, okay, how can I change this to benefit me? And he saw this stack of comic books that were going to go in the trash. And the comic book delivery guy was like, well, you can have these, but don't sell them. And so they decided to open a little lit library and charge admission to the kids and their other kids. And so, that's innovation, that's creativity. And I think that if you're saying to your kids, this needs to get done, but get creative about it, how you want to get it done, there's merit to that. There's absolutely merit to that. And I think that it's part of that is like a very nuanced way of talking about culture, because it's something about the way that the impact that you have when we think about how we're talking about accomplishing our goals and things like that. It's very subtle. So it's an interesting perspective about it. So that's definitely changed your parenting technique and the culture in your home.
It has. And I'll be honest with you. There are some days where my kids are like, oh, I just don't want to go out and try and find money to pay someone to clean the toilet, so I'm just going to clean it. Right? They still it's still hard work, and it's still sometimes it's stuff they might not want to do, but it's giving them the option to know they have options.
I have options.
I didn't have options or choices. It was you go to school, you get a degree.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know there were options, and so letting our children know that they can choose. The task still has to be done, but they can choose, I think, is opening up a whole, like, they're so much smarter than I ever was at that age. So much smarter because they're using different parts of their brain.
So now that we've brought up, the way that you parent, how this influences your family culture, I mean, what does family culture mean to you?
I think family culture is having each other's back, being there for each other, giving each other support to live the best life they can, and then picking you up when you fall or when you're having a hard day. It's always being there. It's continually working on communication, because communication, like, that's a never ending learning cycle, right? Because once you figure out what one person wants, they've grown and then they're at a whole new level. Like your kids, toddler to junior high, I mean, you're having different conversations with them, right? And then they go to parenthood, and even your spouse, after I've been married almost 20 years, like we've grown so differently and constantly working on communication. But at the end of the day, knowing that we absolutely have each other's back, that we forgive, that we support, that we love, and that we're always here for them. And I tell my kids, like, sometimes I'll be like, you guys, this is my first time being a parent, right? I've never done it before. And more than likely, I'm going to screw you up. I'm going to do something wrong. I'm going to say something bad, you know what I mean? That's going to hurt your feelings or do something. But at the end of the day, know that I absolutely love you. I love you so much, and know that I'm always here for you. And I think that brings them a lot of comfort, knowing that they don't have to be perfect either. Because growing up, your mom and dad were always perfect, right? Until you became a teenager, and then that role changes. But as a kid, learning that even parents make mistakes, then I think it gives our kids, they're not afraid of mistakes. They're not afraid to learn and go out there. And so, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's about love and support and standing each other up.
So it sounds like really authenticity is a big part of what you believe is a family culture, to be able to just be open and vulnerable. I think that there is something to vulnerability as a family. So vulnerability sounds like that's a big part of your family values is, and openness and honesty. So do you think that those values have helped you in your pursuit of innovation and entrepreneurship, and how's that translated into what you do? So it's like kind of full circle, you know what I mean? Like these things translate into your entrepreneurship, which influence your family. So how has that vulnerability and honesty helped you in your business?
So the other day on Instagram, I posted that my inner critic, just some quote about inner critic, and like how it brings you down. And then I was just going to leave that quote. And then I came back to it and I'm like, ... P.S. I think this inner critic quote was for me. This last weekend, I was fighting with it. But I'm ready to kick it in the head and become BFFs with myself. Write BFF down below if you agree or whatever. And it was like so many people related with that, right? And I could have been like, oh, I don't have any inner critic, or everything's been perfect, or I've never failed. People don't relate with that. Mm-hmm. And I was actually recording a video earlier about success. Like on social media, you'll notice a lot of people saying, oh, they had a hard day, or they have a headache, or something's not going right. And a lot of people, even that inner critic post, like get on and they're like, oh, I totally understand. And there's a lot of communication, a lot of engagement going on. But on the flip side, if you post anything that you've done successfully, it's like crickets, right?
Yeah.
Because not as many people can relate to success. And they don't know what to say, and it makes them uncomfortable. And so, but if you don't take a second and celebrate you for what you have done, you're missing out on the moments that are going to boost your self-confidence enough to take that next step. And even if it's something small, like I remember when I just had my babies, I had 4 little ones. 2 of them had acid reflux because they were little. One of them had colic. I don't think I'd slept in, I don't know, forever, right? I had some bodily fluid down my shoulder. I'd been in sweats for 2 days. And my husband comes home and he's like, how was your day? And I said, it was so good. I kept the kids alive. And he was like, I'm so proud of you. Like that was the only thing that I had told myself that I had to accomplish. And I would celebrate every single day. I mean, that I kept the kids alive. So anything on top was like, I made dinner. Yes. Like it was the best day ever. Right. Versus, oh my gosh, the laundry's not done. I didn't do the dishes. Dinner's not ready for my husband. Like all that stress that we put on ourselves, I allowed it to go away because I was willing to celebrate the little tiny things. And as they got older, my next celebration was that I would remember to switch the laundry before it went sour and I didn't have to wash it for the 3rd time. And that helped me to build, okay, now the kids are alive. Great. Now the laundry's done ish, because laundry is never done.
Right.
And then the next step and the next step. And it started building my confidence as a mom. And that's the same thing with businesses. Is little by little by little, you start building your confidence. And you don't need to post it on, I mean, you can post it on social if you want to. It's going to might get crickets, right? But don't let that stop you from celebrating you. Because we're humans and God wanted us to have good lives. He also wanted us to work hard, but he also wanted us to have joy. And when we take a second to look back on how far we've come, that's joy. Just like as a mom, when we watch our kids do things that they struggled with for so long, and then they, whatever that is, like let's say swimming, for instance, they're in the swim meet and they struggle with it. And then they win their first meet. They're happy, but the mom is like crazy excited, right? And we need that to be fulfilled and have joy and to keep moving on.
Well, I think that this joy that you're talking about, it comes from like an authentic and humble way of looking at your accomplishments and the things that you do. You know, I think that when we feel insecure, at least for me, when I'm feeling insecure, I want somebody to like praise me or recognize me for some of the, you know, because we're wallowing in this humility and shame. But then when we're able to really, and humility is different from humiliation, right? It's not the same. It's like when you feel humiliated or ashamed, it's different. Anyways, I just think that you're right. Like, I think we get caught up in going, oh, I didn't accomplish so many things. And then that's totally going down a path of self-destruction. And
Yes.
when I was saying earlier, that if you want to innovate, if you want to grow, it's got to come from inside of you. You've got to be able to start recognizing those victories and things, because otherwise you start spiraling, you start going, and you got to be able to spiral up.
It is. And every one of us has such different dreams and hopes. Like, every single person is so unique. So if you're not taking a second to celebrate you, and you're wanting to get it from someone else that doesn't get it, give it to you, you're going to feel deflated. Right? And you don't want to go out there and be like, look how cool I am. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. It's like, taking a second and saying a prayer and thanking Heavenly Father, right? That's what I'm talking about. Or going to get some ice cream, or just doing some yoga, but taking a moment to really savor what you just did, to internally recognize what you were given to get to that success.
Thank you for that, Alison. I'm just so grateful that, talking to you, it's been really, really inspiring for me, because, with the things that my family, we've been going, we're in that same journey that you were, I don't know how long ago when you started out. That's where we are now. And so talking to you is so inspiring to know that, what you've gone through, to know that, part of being successful is having heroes, having influencers that you can look to. And it's such a big deal. I mean, I've talked in the past about, on the show and on social media, just about like this hero's journey. We are called up to do something with our lives, even if it's something simple or whatever. Like, if we are trying to do anything that puts us even a little bit outside of our comfort zone, we're called to do that. And we can't do it alone. We've got to be able to have, friends. We've got to be able to have influencers and heroes. And those things are all part of that journey of growing. So who are your heroes?
My grandparents, they were, my grandpa just recently passed away, but they were my rock. They believed in me when they didn't even know what I was doing. When I was trying to do my first Facebook Live, not my first, but one of my first, my grandpa came to the door, and I was on a live, right? And I had people on there, and he came in and he sat down, and I finished up, and I went in, and he's like, Alison, I think it's really odd that you talk to yourself, but whatever you're doing, just know that I support you. Because he didn't understand. He was 95. He didn't understand Facebook Live, right? Yes. So Grandma and Grandpa the first, of course, the husband, for like being patient with me. Sometimes entrepreneurs are the biggest pain in the butt. Like, we go through this, we have narrow vision. We're so focused. Some days we want to work long hours. Other days, all we want to do is Netflix binge. And him just being loving and patient with me, right? That roller coaster ride. Like, not only did I have to get on the roller coaster ride, he had to get on the roller coaster ride too. He picks me up when I'm down, and then when I'm high, he shrinks my head. And then Russell Brunson. Do you know? Oh yeah. You know Russell.
I know who he is.
I think the world of him. He is such a rock star. I'm really grateful. There was a time in my entrepreneurship career where I was broken, like literally broken. Didn't know if I wanted to get up again. And he gave me the strength through his stories to know that scars and war wounds just make you stronger. And what you think is a failure is actually the stepping stone to help you get to your next place. And so he got me out of like a really bad entrepreneurial, because we all have them, right? But because his journey was very similar, and I understand, it's just very relatable. It changed like everything. It brought back joy and excitement, and really why I chose to be an entrepreneur. He helped me remember why. So Russell Brunson, absolutely adore that man. He's so great.
Well, I want to touch on what you just said about Russell Brunson, about failures, because I think so often with this whole concept of trying to innovate, trying to grow, I think, and also, trying to overcome the challenges that we face of trying to raise our families, that I think a lot of times we do get bogged down in those failures. And I can relate to that. What I've learned so far from Russell Brunson is about how those stories, those failures, the things that we experience in life, we have to turn them around. Yeah. My husband, he's like, I want to be able to write about the things I've been going through. But it sounds like really depressing. And I go, well, then you need to talk about what you've learned from them. You need to talk about how they've inspired you to change or to grow. And, we've just been able to look back on our challenges and our failures and our struggles and just ask ourselves, what are we supposed to be learning from this? Instead of, well, the end. The story's not over. We have to take those failures. We got to take those experiences and say, what have I learned? Or what can I learn? Or what can I do to grow from this?
What is the positive out of this crappy situation that I'm supposed to learn? Mm-hmm.
There's a purpose. But as soon as we start to think about what we're doing, as soon as we start to look towards change and to learn from our failures, then we start being proactive.
Yep.
Proactivity is really the path to success.
and not stopping ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people go, oh, to grow that business is going to take me 2 to 5, maybe 10 years. That's so long. But then you think, okay, but how long was the path to retirement in the other way?
Yeah, right.
40, 60 years, if you survive that long.
And if you're spending 5 to 10 years to build a business, you need to find better mentors, because there are so many people out there that have done what you want to do that can help accelerate that growth. So you're not inventing the wheel again.
Yeah.
Find a mentor that can excel your growth, because 5-10 years is way too long.
Well, I think that this is important because I'm glad you brought that up, because this is the way that our culture is going. Our culture is going towards innovation, and it's so easy to get online and start growing and creating something. Yep. And so never eliminate that as an option. If your family's struggling or if you need help with anything, never eliminate that as an option. That's all I can say about it. Okay, just to conclude, thank you so much for your time, Alison. I really, really appreciate your thoughts. I really appreciate your example. Thank you so, so much. I really enjoyed talking with you. Do you have any final thoughts to leave with our audience or families who want to innovate or thinking about these entrepreneurial principles to incorporate them into their family values?
Yeah, you will fail, you will cry, you will want to quit, but that doesn't mean you can stop. Ever. Never. There are times when my husband would find me curled up in a ball in the closet because orders didn't get out, or I had an employee quit or an employee yell at me, right? Mm-hmm. And it was hard. But if I had to do it again, I would do it in a heartbeat, because that is what led me to today. And I know that that scared mom of 4 who was so afraid to do anything, you just heard me choke up. Mm-hmm. I just want to go back and tell her, you're doing a good job. You're on the right path. Keep pushing, keep going, because your future self's going to thank you. Set your path and know that your future self wants to thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alison. I really, really appreciate that. Okay. Get the tingles off me now. Okay. Where can we find you, Alison, to learn more about you and connect with you and the things that you have to offer?
Social platforms. So I'm on Instagram at Alison with 1 L, Alison, and then J. I use my middle name J Prince, because there's another Alison Prince out there. Well, actually, there's a few. So I did it for SEO purposes. So J Prince on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and then my blog is actually Alison Prince. So yeah, just type in Alison J. Prince and you'll find me everywhere.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Alison. I really appreciate having you on.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I love getting your feedback. You can like, rate, and share on your favorite broadcasting medium or social media platform. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Family Culture Podcast, and on Twitter at _Family Culture. Come check out my show notes and resources at homeandfamilyculture.com. You can also look up all of the books that I reference and access those at homeandfamilyculture.com/books. Thanks again for listening. Mother Teresa once said, "If you want to change the world, go home and love your family."